the past. I know. You probably looked it up. A lot of sheikhs and imams said, it's none of anyone's business to know about your past. Allah forgives all sins. Yes, that is true. That is true. People should not expose their past sins. That is true. That is a general blanket rule. But I'm going to just let you think about something. You know yourself. Some sins of the past are not that easy to just dismiss. Stay with me. Stay with me. You with me? Okay. Some sins of the past between telling a potential spouse cannot be easily dismissed. You have to think, is that sin of my past going to show up in my marriage again? Does it have the potential? I'll give you an example. If a person used to be on drugs before and they were addicted and it was hard, how long ago was it? If drugs can come back into the marriage, not in the beginning, but later on it can. Because people take drugs often either for recreation or when they get addicted, it becomes mental issues, depression and all of that stuff. In a marriage, there's going to be ups and downs. A person can resort back to the drugs. Is it important to talk about it? In my opinion, wallahi, you don't have to take it. It's important to talk about it. But of course, there has to be respect and people have to cover up for their sins. Sometimes a person may have had multiple relationships in the past. Now, it's up to you to say it or not say it. It's not a problem. I had a few young people, couple who call me and say, look, you know, this guy has asked for me. Listen, a sister said, a guy has asked for me. Even brothers, they say to me, I want to ask for this sister, but, you know, I had a girlfriend before and I've committed zina a few times and sister says things have happened. What should I do? And look, you don't have to say it outright. You can hint it. You can send someone to say it in a different way. I've helped a few young people when they've come to me and I said, look, you know, if you want, I can talk to the person. And I've done it before in a very respectful and in a way that is a hint without putting the other person on the spot. Now, the reason we say that sometimes what happens, if you get married and that is something that is important to you, if you want to ask that question, you can ask that question. But the other person does not have to answer the question. And then it's up to you if you want to go ahead or not. Let's say they asked you the question and says, look, my sins are in the past, I don't want to talk about them. Well, that's up to, sorry, I scared you. Well, the other person can say, well, you know, I don't want to go ahead, or you go ahead at your own risk. However, talking about it, I think, is important even in some way. I know couples who got married later on, and when they found out about their past, they came back, pictures came up, things like that, and it caused a trauma, you know, between them, distrust. So sometimes I say it's good, and at times I say maybe, and at times I say it's none of their business. It's none of their business if it's totally in the past. You've got people, for example, who've converted to Islam, reverted to Islam, or people who repented to Allah, and the other person who's asking for them, they know that they had, you know, a non-believing life or they were in a sinful life. You don't have to talk about the details. You can say, look, I lived a sinful life, and I didn't know, and I have repented. That's it. You don't have to say much more than that, inshallah. But just remember this. Anything you know that will creep in from the past into your marriage later on, that you know potentially will, there's a chance it will and will cause attention, my advice is to hint about it. Mention it in some way. Allahu A'lam. But again, brothers and sisters, I'm not telling you have to. I'm just talking from experience. I've seen later on these problems happen. Allahu A'lam. And I hope, inshallah, I'm right. Allahu A'lam. Criminal records. I've been in prison before, for example. No, I haven't been in prison. I'm saying that if a person says I've been in prison before, you need to say these things because that's going to affect the family as well. And lastly, how would you want a wedding? You might be thinking, oh, is that important? It's very important. In fact, saying how you want a wedding and the details of it will tell you so much about the mindset of the person, about their family, about your family, to see if things can get along. I've seen families have fights in weddings over things that weren't clearly talked about before. Some couples have divorced and divided and had fights over a wedding dress, over a ring, over the bouquet of flowers, over the car type, over the hall, over the table, over I don't know what. Oh man, have I got stories for you. But I don't want to say too many stories because it could be people in our community who might think I'm talking about them. I'm not talking about anybody, but this happens everywhere, brothers and sisters. So it's important to talk about these things. Are there any questions from my brothers or sisters? Yes, Habibi. Why is marriage important? So you can be born. Your mum and dad got married, didn't they? And then you're born. Do you see? So you can come out. You can exist. What's your name? Hamza, mashallah. So marriage is important so that children can happen. Mum and dad can love each other. You can have grandparents. You can have uncles and aunts. And you have a big family. Big families come from marriages. You get it? Do you get money on Eid? If your mum and dad didn't get married and you didn't have big families, you wouldn't get any money. You wouldn't even be born, I think. You got it, Habibi? Obviously, I'm answering a young kid, brothers and sisters. So, yes, Habibi. Yeah, good question. Yep. Married or not married? Well, brother is asking, what would you do with teenagers who want to come up, who want to get into relationships and talk to you and you talk to them? And what about the ones who are married? Well, yeah, akhi, look, it's a long advice. Simple advice, ya akhi, is first of all, you got to know that your teenagers are now older and they see themselves as very, very important. They see themselves as right in a lot of ways, right? And they probably don't think that you know as much about them as what you think you know. So have that in mind, number one. Number two, I would say that you need to establish a friendship with them and say to them, for example, you know, son, daughter, you can always talk to me about anything you like. You know, when I was a little kid, I had relationships that I wanted to get into, and I didn't know what to do. You know, I was like you. I would have sensitivities. I'd be embarrassed. I would think my parents don't know. Say, no, I've been there and done that, and try us out. I'm just here for you, Dad. And whatever, anytime you need to talk about it, we'll talk. Sometimes you might sit down and talk with, say, your wife, and you open up a discussion in front of them. So it's called passively. And you say, you know, what do you, darling, how did we meet? Talk about your story, about your relationship and how you met with their mum. I think story is letting the guards down, letting them see that how you were once there and did that, opening up some of your vulnerabilities. I think, inshallah, will allow them a door to open up to you. So, and don't pressure them. Tell them how much you respect them. Tell them, son, daughter, you know, you're old enough now, mashallah. And Allah has told me to protect your privacy. But I want to tell you, I'm always here for you. And, you know, now you've come of age. Anything you need to talk about, talk to me, to mum. And then every now and then, as I told you, talk about yourself, talk about you and your wife, how you met. Talk about relationships with your wife in front of them. So I think, inshallah, this is a good way of opening the door. If you've got married children, same thing. Because this is in the hadith, Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, or the qaida, the rule in Islam is anything that is halal, that brings about something that is wrong, then that halal becomes haram. So if I'm going to do something, and I know that that's going to bring something haram, then I don't do it. I know, brother, I know. So brother here is saying, when I say I know, it means I know what your question is. Sorry about that. I don't know everything. Brother, brother's asking this question about when living together with the in-laws, what if the parents are elderly and they're sick and they need you to live with them? And yes, of course, that is a very valid thing, and that's a difficult one. See, when that happens, if you know that they are very sick and they do need you, then you need to talk about that with that potential spouse beforehand. You have to, all right? If they got sick later on and it requires you that you move out of your dwelling and move in with them to look after them in some way, again, you need to talk with your wife about it. You can move in, you can move closer, you cannot oblige her, even when they're sick, to live in their house. That's a sadaqah and a charity from her. But obviously that would cause tension. So in that case, it's a difficult one. You need to try and get through it together and try to minimize. I always say to people, when you have a problem, work through four things. First one, solution. So in this case, solution is to go and live there and she agrees with you and everybody's happy. That's a solution. 90% of cases, you can't solve them. So you go to the next one, minimize it. Instead of living there, live close to there. Or talk with your siblings and each one shares a night at your parents' house. I know some people who do that. So minimize the problem. Share it with your siblings, each one sleeps there, and your wife would agree with you. She can't say no to you, to go and sleep a night or 2 nights with your parents and share them. Living close to them, going to them in the daytime, and then someone else at night. So this is minimizing the situation.